Welcome to Milk Market Tidbit for the October Milk Production Report that USDA released yesterday afternoon. This is Dr. Lawrence Jones with Farm Institute, and I'm recording this on Thursday around spot market time on November 21st. All right, so our milk production report is always our first USDA report. That is followed by the cold storage report and then the dairy products report. For the milk production report, there are always three numbers that we focus on, but only two of those are necessary because we get the total production, the number of cows, which then gives us milk per cow. All right, so going into this, here are my typical numbers that we thought we would have, and those are based on milk coming down just a little bit. So I had it from 65 down to 64.97, and then production I had at 99.7, and that's because that's where USDA, says we typically October over September is. Well, the first thing that happened is USDA significantly changed the February numbers. And the things that they changed more than anything is look what they did with cow numbers. Took them from 9.328 up to 9.346. They also increased production a little bit. So when we got done, here are my new typical numbers, and they were based again on keeping 99.7 and dropping milk a little bit. So this is where we actually came in. Now this is very interesting because the daily production was actually lower than we thought it would be. It was 602. The month over month number is 99.1, so it was on the lower end of what I had thought it would be. By the way, this change in cow numbers, this is outside of one standard deviation of what the USDA says their estimates are normally off. So that was kind of a big change. However, milk production on a per cow basis came down quite a bit, down 0.7, and then they increased milk cows again by 19,000. Now, if you compare this to StoneX, which is done on a year-over-year basis, says production came in a little bit higher. On a daily basis, on a total basis, cow numbers were definitely higher, and they had milk production pretty close to where it came in. So again, depending upon where you set, depends upon where you stand. To me, this would say this was not overly bearish, but actually slightly bullish. But they would say it was probably slightly bearish from their estimates. So let's just kind of plot everything out. So first off, if we compare to a year ago, we've only increased about 10,000 cows. Now we had this big dip down, and if you look at where cow numbers are, it's at the bottom of that big run up. We had a little bit lower on 2019 when we had good prices, but this does not appear to be overly burdensome to me because on the dairy products report, I said we need 9.4 million to meet the current demand of cheese, and so we're still at 9.36. So again, I don't think these are overly burdensome kind of cow numbers. And in fact, you could argue that the data was suggesting they probably were this high all along. However, when we look at dairy slaughter and change in cow numbers, we still have less than 0.75 replacements per cow, which means that culling is going to stay extremely low. Our last data for slaughter was 1027, 7,400 less than a year ago. Again, these numbers are slightly different because I've put November in, but we've increased only 10,000 cows while we slaughtered almost 400,000 fewer animals. That just says we just do not have the heifers to keep this herd going. And here is the percentage call rate. So we're down in that 28% total turnover rate right now. So it's interesting to look at daily production. So we're up maybe just a little bit of last year, but let's look at this long-term trend that we're on. You could argue that actually, this first one and this other trend may actually be, on that long-term trend, but it definitely fell off in October of 23. Now, let's remind ourselves, when did bird flu start? It's early 2024. So this trend started long before bird flu did. I think this is more of a trend of breeding animals to Angus and not getting the heifers we need. Going into this report, here are the federal milk marketing data. We said it was going to be really hard to kind of look at this data. But if we plot out month over month changes of the federal milk marketing data as well as USDA data, they were right on top of each other. And this would indicate that we had some major depooling, a month ago. But we can calculate overall about 58.17% of the milk pooled. Again, there's a big piece out here that's not even in a federal order, let alone all the depooling of class 3. Now I want to talk about depooling for just a second, because again, this is the forward curves as of settlements yesterday. It would look like class 4 is significantly higher than class 3 all the way through, and you would say, okay, we're going to be depooling class 4. And in fact, that's probably what's going to happen right away. But I'm going to start interjecting every now and then just a little bit on the new federal milk marketing orders, because I don't think everybody has thought these through quite to the extent they should. And the example I'm going to give is actually Florida, which is Order 6. In this last federal milk marketing, basically 83% class 3, about 14% class 2, very little class 3, and a little bit of class 4. Now, when you look at the current one, you take class 3 is going to be all of class 3 and then half of class 1, because again, it's the average of 3 and 4. So they're going to be 42% class 3, 57% class 4. Under the new rules, which is the higher of, they're going to be basically 100% class 4, because there is going to be only this 0.8% of class 3. So what does this mean? So first off, if you've got DRP bought into the future, assuming 42% class 3, and now all of a sudden you're 100% class 4, that's a bit of a problem. But overall, what it's going to say is that the areas that are high class 1 are now going to be all class 4 if it's the higher of 3 and 4. Milk per cow also changed significantly in 23, and if we extend that curve, October of 23 was off of that, and now October of 24 is off also. And we can argue that it came in just a little bit lower than what we had expected it to. Overnight, the trade did not like this report. It was down about 10 cents. The report came in basically at 3 o'clock. And then today they are down also about another 13 cents in the morning session. So overall, the trade did not like this report. We did have a global dairy trade yesterday ahead of this, and that actually was up session over session. We got the National Dairy Sales reports and the advanced prices yesterday, and then we're going to just get the final 2 reports for the week here. Next week, we'll get the cold storage report on Monday, and that will be the next milk market tidbit.